What's up, everyone? Welcome to the All49ers Roundtable. I'm in the middle now. Jack Hammer is to my left. Below him is Jose Sanchez. To his right is Tony Farmer. Above him is Maverick Pallack. And we're going to talk about the 49ers today. A lot of Robert Saleh because he's probably leaving and taking a little chunk of the 49ers with him, not just the roster, but the coaching staff as well. We're going to talk about all the different things that could happen. We're going to talk about Jimmy G as well and other stuff. We could take questions as well. We're going to start, though, with Saleh. From your perspective, if you were Robert Saleh's agent, where would you be trying to get him to land? What is the best landing spot for Robert Saleh?
I think the best landing spot's going to be with the Chargers. I said that from the very beginning. I think if you're Robert Saleh, that's where you want to go. You've got a quarterback who's already been broken in a little bit. You've got a defense that has a Bosa brother on it with a ton of talent on that side of the ball as well. They've been close to winning each of the last two seasons, and they just need somebody to get them over the hump. So that's where I would go if I was Robert Saleh. That would be my first choice.
Chargers. Yeah, I can't. It's really difficult for me to even throw out another scenario that's even worth talking about because the Chargers makes too much sense. And we talked about it last week. If Saleh's going somewhere, they're not asking, hey, how's your defense going to be? Are you going to do the same thing? No. Who's your offensive staff? They know who his offensive staff is going to be. It's going to be either Mike LaFleur or Mike McDaniel. So, hey, welcome on board. We want you to unleash Justin Herbert. And if anything, if they really want to get poaching about Robert Saleh's defensive style, I held down Patrick Mahomes for 3.5 quarters, and the offense didn't do their job to make my defense better. So I'm looking forward to that. I really want to see that for so many selfish reasons. Just Robert Saleh deserves a great setup like that, franchise quarterback, and the defense that has pieces going forward.
Good point.
Good.
Yeah, I'm going to go contrarian here. What I like about the Jets, what I like about the Jaguars is they have their picks early in the draft, and so he can have his selection of which quarterback he wants. Now, if he likes Herbert, okay, that makes sense. But another thing that I think people aren't recognizing with the Chargers is you got to share a division with Patrick Mahomes for the next 10 years. And so you got to be really confident that because, you can make the playoffs as a wild card. I get that. But let's look at the AFC East. The Patriots are no longer that perennial team that, you're afraid to be in a division with. And then in Jacksonville, you got the Colts in that division, et cetera. But in terms of ability to make the playoffs year in and year out, I like being in those other divisions.
It's a good point.
I would pick the Chargers. Oh, there's a voice crack. I would pick the Chargers and because just alone what Jack and Jose are saying with all the Bosa, and then they also have Kenneth Murray and Derwin James who kind of fit Saleh's system already. But if I had to pick someone else, I would go Detroit just because if he can get a Kyle Shanahan style contract where he gets 4 years to rebuild his team, he would be able to do that. I think they have some pieces. They have an early pick this year. They'll probably have an early pick the next 2 years, and that would do a lot. And he'd be a hometown god there, and that'd be big because they've had a couple winning seasons the last 30 years, but they've never been able to put consistent seasons in. If Saleh gets time, I think he could put together a couple of consistent winning years.
Okay. Look, I think it's the Chargers because of Justin Herbert, basically. But Tony brought up a great point, and I'm going to go with that. You could argue that maybe you don't want to be in the same division as Patrick Mahomes right now. Maybe that's not the move, especially the Chargers. I mean, they don't have much cap space. They're losing players. They have Justin Herbert and what else? I mean, both. Yeah, they might be a wild card team for the next few years. The Jets, though, you can say the same thing about Buffalo. That team is on the rise. Buffalo is going to be better next year than they were this year. I'm a little nervous about playing in the same division as Josh Allen. To me, the one division that really stinks and the opening that people aren't talking about is Philly. I mean, that's a team that won a Super Bowl a few years ago and is in the worst division, hands down, in the league. Like 6-10 wins that division or whatever it was this year. So you could go to Philly. I mean, they have a really good defensive line. They have a pass rush that's ready. He could get that defense playing well now, be in the playoffs right away, and own a terrible division. Maybe Philly. I'm just, as a devil's advocate, it's the Chargers, though. I'm just saying. I would want to coach in LA. I'd want to live in Orange County, and that sounds really nice to me. I don't know.
Yeah, keep them out of the NFC for the 49ers.
Okay, let's look at it a different way. What is the worst landing place for Robert Saleh from the 49ers perspective? Like, where are they rooting for him not to go?
I would say anywhere in the NFC. I think we're all under the understanding he's going to be a good head coach, and I think eventually he'll make a good roster when he has the chance to do that. And NFC teams will be competing with the 49ers for the playoffs, so that would be where they wouldn't want him to go.
I would say the Jets and the Jaguars again, because they have the most salary cap space next year. And so I'm worried about Saleh taking some of these many unrestricted free agents with him. And then it's just going to be a bidding war between Shanahan and Saleh, or Shanahan and Lynch and Saleh, for some of these same players, especially the defensive players. And so those two have the most cap space. It's a pretty big drop off from them down to some of those other teams that we've talked about.
Great point.
I'm gonna take it a step further here. Let's just assume Saleh actually comes back this year, given like all the competition, and he still hasn't inked a deal. If he ends up taking Cardinals' job next year when the Cardinals fire Cliff Kingsbury, that's going to be a terrible position for them to be in. You don't think you want to go there with all the pieces they got over there? Budda Baker, all these players it's just going to be very ugly to see. And low-key would be a very interesting thought. I know it's a wild card out there, but it just seems a little basic, just going like, what would be the worst fit here for them going forward? But imagine if they Cardinals fall short again. Ooh, come on. How can you not have Robert Saleh? Someone who's just going to come down, Thor's hammer on everyone, just get everyone on the same page and just see how they're going to fare going forward.
Yeah, Mav took what my first answer was going to be what Mav said was going to be anywhere in the NFC, and Tony threw out the other one too with the cap. So those are both really good answers. Those are both no matter where he goes. If he goes somewhere this year, I think it's going to be a little bit rough on the 49ers. I really have a feeling that there's a really good chance that he doesn't go anywhere. When you look at Robert Saleh, he's a very good defensive coach, but who's he going to be bringing as his offensive coordinator? Because it doesn't matter who he brings; they don't have experience. So it's going to be, if I'm the Chargers, that's one of the things that I don't want to do is bring in a guy to take over Justin Herbert when you have a coach that's going to be running the offense that it hasn't been a coordinator in the past. That would be something that would concern me.
Yeah, it's a good point. To me, the Jets are scary from the Niners perspective because I think they have $70 million in cap space, so the Niners can just forget about Jason Verrett. I mean, they could conceivably sign Trent Williams too, and put him next to Mekhi Becton, have them as bookend tackles. They could do whatever they wanted if he could take Juszczyk, Bourne. I think that would be kind of scary if he goes to the Chargers. I think the Chargers would have to be concerned about re-signing their own players. Same with Detroit. Yeah, but then if he goes to Philly, the Niners have to worry about facing him in the playoffs every year, potentially. I don't know if Philly would want to bring him in to fix Carson Wentz, but if I were him, the way I would sell this to Philly is, look at Cleveland. Look what Kevin Stefanski did for Baker Mayfield. Baker Mayfield was in the wrong system. He was in this spread RPO crap with Freddie Kitchens. You bring in just a competent offensive coach who does a different style, and the team takes off. We could do the same thing for Carson Wentz. He could have a similar type of season that Baker Mayfield's had. That's what Saleh should be trying to sell. I don't know if they'd buy it, but I don't think it could hurt. So to me, yeah, I guess the Jets. That would be scary. Yeah. Moving on. Which 49ers free agent will Robert Saleh most want to bring with him wherever he goes? Jack, I think.
Yeah, it really depends on where he goes. I could see him really wanting to go after Trent Williams. I know we're all thinking of the defensive guys that he's going to want to bring, but Trent Williams, depending on where he goes, if they don't have a franchise left tackle, would be the perfect guy to go after. Bring him in, especially if he's with Jacksonville or one of those places that has a lot of cap space, and make that move. Otherwise, you're looking at Verrett and Hyder as the other two.
Yeah, that's a good one too. I was thinking about even offensively when I thought about the article I was writing yesterday, but I think I'm gonna have to go with the Killer Witherspoon just because of how he finished the season strong. And I know how they want to say, "Oh, Kyle Shanahan gave me the opportunity" and such like that, but he wouldn't have had the opportunity if Shanahan didn't put him in the doghouse. And Witherspoon knows that this system he excels in. So why not go for the guy who's the real leader of men, Robert Saleh, the guy whose system you're comfortable with, the one that amplifies your skills. So it makes so much sense. And at least wherever Saleh goes, Witherspoon's not going to be able to demand much money-wise. So he knows, hey, we can just throw this guy like a 1 or 2 year deal, just come in. He knows, he's familiarized. And especially on Spoon's side, he knows that Saleh's going to surround the defense with players that Witherspoon knows how everyone will work and mesh with each other. So I just think Witherspoon would be the player of his choice.
I'd go with Richard Sherman. I mean, they say he's like a coach on the field. And so if you're transitioning from being a defensive coordinator to being a head coach, you got to let go a little bit of that defensive side of the ball, which is, your forte. It's what you're used to. So knowing that you've got a guy like Sherman there, obviously he'll have his own defensive coordinator, but knowing you've got a veteran like Sherman on your team with you, a lot of these teams that he's looking at are a lot of young teams. And so to have a veteran like Sherman in the locker room and to help those young guys develop, I think would be a dream for any new head coach.
I'll go with K'Wan Williams. I think that he'll allow Saleh to do a lot of the defense he likes to do with those nickel blitzes. And then if we're going offense, how about Kyle Juszczyk? Just because what did Kyle do when he first came to the 49ers is he grabbed Kyle Juszczyk. He got an offensive leader that maybe isn't the most important position, but it would be able to allow him to run the offense that of the two offensive coordinators he's rumored to bring along with him. And I think Juszczyk would be a big guy to bring in, especially if he has the cap space.
Yeah, I mean, a lot depends on if he has the cap space. If he goes to the Jets, he might be able to get Trent Williams. If he goes to the Lions, he might not be able to get anyone. I like what you said about Richard Sherman. That makes a lot of sense. You would want to kind of be like the Pierre Garçon of his tenure, like the guy who sets the tone, shows people how to be pros and all that stuff. It seems to me though, he can't be playing corner. You bring him there, he's like a safety. You got to change his position. You got to have a plan for that. And they did move him around a little bit, so that could actually be the case. It might be Sherman. I don't know if he'd be the top choice. Also with Witherspoon, that makes sense too. I don't know if he'd be the top choice, but he might be like the ace up his sleeve, like the guy that no one's thinking about. But I know Robert Saleh loves Akello Witherspoon. I don't know how Akello feels about Saleh, but I feel like maybe you're right that it was like Shanahan's doghouse, and those two could reunite.
It needs to change scenery.
To me, though, I don't know if it is his top target, but it should be his top target is Jason Verrett. Robert Saleh defense went to another level when Jason Verrett went on the field. To me, it was better. If they could have had Jason Verrett on that defense last year, they would have won the Super Bowl. Like this year's Jason Verrett, if they had him instead of Richard Sherman or Emmanuel Moses, I think they win the Super Bowl. He's that important. It allows Robert Saleh to do so much more than he used to do. So if he can get Jason Verrett, I mean, if he goes to a team that already has a lockdown corner, you don't need to spend $10 million a year on him. But if you don't, I think it would really, really help Robert Saleh to bring that guy in. Verrett. All right, let's move on. Which 49ers assistant coach will Robert Saleh most want to bring with him?
I figured Chris Koserick would be the number one assistant he would want to bring in. It would stabilize his defensive line. I know Koserick's expensive, but it also might come with a bonus prize of Kerry Hyder if he is able to bring Koserick along. So I think that'd be a huge get for him. I don't know how the logistics would work with that, but Koserick would be my number one assistant I think Saleh would want to bring.
Yeah, I think Mav hit the nail on the head there. I mean, you're looking at a lot of guys like to build a defense around starting the defensive line first. And you see that in Washington. That's also the 49ers model. So it's Saleh's model. So to bring a guy like Koserick in who, you can depend on the defensive line and to develop young guys, I think that's the number one choice.
Yeah, those are both solid answers. I think it kind of depends on where he goes. Like, let's say, Chargers. Then I think it'd be Mike LaFleur because of passing game coordinator. Or if he goes, Jaguars is an option anymore. But say if it was the Jaguars, he would have maybe opted for McDaniels because he would have had James Robinson in the backfield, and then a rookie quarterback needs to get acclimated with the running game opening forward with that first pick. But it just really depends on where he ends up going. So who's the last one? It'd probably be LaFleur because, I just can't help a heart. It's like they just really curious. What's your offensive side going to be? Because, we talked about before, we trust you on defense. We know how it's going to work. How is your offense going to shape? What do you think about this? How hands-on are you going to be with it? So I think it most likely could just be LaFleur, if anything, because passing league.
Yeah, you guys are all making too much sense. I'm going to say the guy that he needs to bring is going to be John Benton or Shane Day, and really that's just because I want to see them out and have Shanahan bring in some new blood there. So those are the two guys I think he's going to want to bring most.
That's a cop-out answer, but I like it. That's hilarious. No, I have a serious answer, Jack. To me, it's the running game coordinator, Mike McDaniel. I think this guy is. I mean, he's been with Kyle Shanahan every step of the way of Shanahan's career. He might be like the brains behind the operation. I wonder. And I think the rest of the NFL does too. If you see, he's a candidate to be the offensive coordinator of the Dolphins on his own. I mean, Brian Flores never worked with him. And he's heard that the guy's really good. It seems like what teams are going to say to Saleh is, yeah, like, well, who's your guy who can work with the quarterback? And Saleh, you know, he can say, you know, I don't have that guy. But what does a quarterback need more? A caddy, someone to tell him, you know, to work on his footwork and his, or a great defense in a running game. What is the quarterback's best friend? His quarterback coach or his running game? And it seems to me that look what a running game did for Baker Mayfield. I can bring this. I can bring Mike McDaniel. This guy is going to hurt. Losing Mike McDaniel is going to be a big, big deal for the 49ers because to me, he's the one with all the brilliant details in the play design of the run game. I mean, I always associated the play action game with Shanahan, the run game with McDaniel. I think if he can get McDaniel, that's a big deal. I don't know if owners see it that way, but from a football perspective, that's a big deal. Anyone want to disagree with me on that one?
No, that makes perfect sense. And Shanahan always talks highly about both of them and how much they go into the game plan and stuff like that. And didn't he? Both of them. Didn't he block one of them from trying to get an interview like 2 years ago?
Absolutely. And here's the thing: if and when the Niners lose LaFleur and McDaniel, do you understand how much more game planning Shanahan's going to have to do next year? He'll have to be even more of a coordinator unless he has other people that he trusts to do all the game planning. Because the idea is McDaniel and LaFleur look at the tape and come up with all the ideas of how they're going to attack an opponent that week. And Shanahan comes in at the end and says, I like these things. I don't like these things. We're going to go with this. We're not going to go with that. That's what he's supposed to do. He's supposed to trust and delegate. Can he do that anymore? Or is he going to have to do all the stuff he had to do in Atlanta? It takes a lot of time. I don't know. What do you guys think?
There's really nobody else on his staff, I think, that would do that other than maybe Wes Walker. Maybe
Wes.
I don't see him doing that with Benton or Shane Day. So yeah, I think you're spot on there.
Maybe they'll have to bring Mike Shanahan out of retirement.
Bring back Rick Scangarello.
Game planning specialist. Yeah, Scangarello, right? Guy that really helped Vic Fangio in Denver. All right, let's move on. Better for the is it okay? This is an interesting question. Would it be better for the 49ers to lose Robert Saleh and get 2 third-round picks in return, one this year and one next year, or for him to return and to continue to coach this defense, which is a possibility? Jack.
I think that this one for me is pretty easy. It would be better for the 49ers to keep Saleh. I'd much rather have Robert Saleh than 2 third-round picks any day of the week. I think he's that important. And when you're talking about third-rounders, those are, that's right on the edge. And yeah, for me, it's Robert Saleh all the way.
Yeah, it's almost day 3. It's the end of round 3. It's like comp picks.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, the same thing with Jack. I like to be the chain breaker here, but when you just stop being the voice of reason, Jack, damn it. So it's hard not to go with Robert Saleh. It's just so fun just watching him just how he just articulates everything with the defense, how to get everyone play so cohesively, how he changed the identity within weeks, a matter of weeks, everyone going down, like revolving door of how many shuffling pieces he has done is just phenomenal. And it's just, I'm pretty sure we're all in agreement here that he was the best 49ers coordinator/coach that on the team. So just bringing him back, and whether if you have missing pieces, he can compensate for that and at least get you in a winning position like he did last year.
Yeah, I think the answer here is Saleh, but I will say that I think that next year, the next couple of years, with who knows what's going on with the salary cap, with COVID and all that stuff, are we going to have a normal season next year? I think the draft picks are going to be more of a premium than they have been in years past, but still, even with that said, I'd have to go with Saleh.
I think it's Saleh, no question, but I think the third-round picks are definitely a nice consolation prize for it. Saleh can turn 5th-round picks, as we've seen, into pretty good defensive players. So I think he outweighs the 2 third-round picks. But if you lose Saleh, it's good to get those 2 threes. That will help the defense or the rebuilding of this team, like Tony said.
Yeah, I think it's a worthwhile discussion because when Nick Bosa comes back next year, it's a loaded defense. This is a team that philosophically wants to put most of its high draft picks onto the defense. A lot of guys could have success with this defense. Maybe D'Amico Ryans could be really good, or Chris Postwick. And third-round picks are really nice, especially with the cap going down. It seems to me, though, that Saleh's worth more than 2/3. Saleh's worth a 1, in my opinion. At least a 1. So if you're getting less than that, I would rather keep Robert Saleh. If you can get a first-round pick for him, though, who knows? That might help you trade up for your franchise quarterback, and everyone has a price. But 2/3 late. Jack's, that's a good point from Jack. They're almost like early 4s. It's like after it's like the 100th pick or the 105th pick. Yeah.
And how are they going to get awarded that? Just based on their rank, their record wise? How have they clarified like, oh, it's going to be like a out of the third round type of thing? Or
yeah, I don't know. Like who gets the I don't know.
Because then
pick
because then if you get it, then it's like all right, it's going to be a somewhat high third pick in 2020, but what if they do good in 2021? Now that third is pretty much is a fourth.
That's a tough one.
It's definitely going to be at the end of the third round.
Right.
Yeah, and that's not even worth it.
No, and it's like however they do their comp picks now, it's going to be what it will be like.
Yeah,
so.
that's what I thought. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. That's enough of Saleh. I think that was like 11 solid topics. So let's move on to someone else, but it's kind of in the same arena because I build this as are the 49ers on the verge of a mass exodus? It's not just Saleh and Mike McDaniel and Mike LaFleur and potentially DeMeco Ryans and Mike Rutenberg, the pass game coordinator on defense, and maybe Chris Kosarick too. It's also people in the front office. Adam Peters applied, interviewed for the Carolina job, didn't get it. He's still out there. And now Martin Mayhew is going to be interviewing for the Washington general manager job on Friday. If he gets the job, who do you think would be his first and primary target among the 49ers free agents?
I think his first target would be Jason Verrett, just because they have two free agent corners, Washington, in Ronald Darby and Fabian Moreau. And Jason Verrett would slide right in there. They have a good defensive line. They're losing Kerrigan, but the rest of the guys are in place. And they'll be able to solidify that defensive backfield with Verrett, in my opinion.
I think we have a tendency to think of these high-priced guys when we answer questions like this, but how about a guy like Kerry Hyder? He's not going to be as expensive as some of the other names that we've said when we've answered this question, but to bring in a guy like that at I think a more reasonable contract than some of the other names that we've mentioned, like Verrett, Sherman, et cetera, I think that's a guy that has a higher ceiling, a little bit more unknown, that a GM would like to have.
How about Kendrick Bourne? I think you can get Kendrick Bourne over there just because outside of Terry McLaurin, I can't name a single player, name a single player or even consider a player worth naming. So, I mean, at least, like, I'm not saying Kendrick Bourne's going to take that offense over the top, but whoever the quarterback is, because who knows if Alex Smith is coming back. Now it's like, all right, cool. Now we have another quality, like, third receiver here, and he could just fit back into the role. So then you just end up drafting another one, saying another one free agency, however you feel. But the point is just having depth, because I think on that defensive side of the ball, they feel very comfortable. I know Mav mentioned that they have free agents coming up, but at least for Bourne, it's not going to cost too much, and there's still familiarity of him flying under the radar. So Mayhew could probably poach him.
Yeah, Bourne was going to be the guy that I was going to go with, and I really like Tony's and Matt both bringing up Kerry Hyder. He'd be a really nice fit as that rotational guy, because that's really what the Niners were hoping to get out of him, and that'd be a good fit. Give him $5-6 million to go do that would be a nice fit for the Redskins, or excuse me, football team.
Did he draft Kerry Hyder in Detroit?
Ooh.
I don't know.
Good question.
That's an interesting one.
He either drafted or brought him in. He was the original guy to bring him in.
Yeah, so that's a good one. I'm just going to stick with the guy. I keep saying the same name. Jason Verrett. If you put Jason Verrett on
Jason freaking Verrett
with that front seven, I mean, that's the best defensive line in the league, I think. And you put Jason Verrett on that with Kendall Fuller, like that's the best defense in the league. That's a Super Bowl defense. So if they could do that, that would be real cool. Also, Kyle Juszczyk might be an interesting addition to that team. He's kind of a luxury pick, but they do have $43 million in cap space. Maybe Kyle Juszczyk, but Jason Verrett would be nice. That'd be nice.
Yeah, Hyder was an undrafted free agent.
Okay, all right. Which 49ers player is untouchable in your opinion? As in, no trade, no nothing. He's a Niner for life.
Well, I'm not going to say Niner for life, but for right now, the guys that are untouchable, there's going to Nick Bosa for sure. Fred Warner, those guys are untouchable right now as far as I'm concerned. They're in a different situation than what we saw with Buckner last year. Buckner last year was at the end of his contract, and he was a free agent, or going to be a free agent, which is what made him a valuable, a piece to trade. But with the 49ers, I don't think they're in a position to where they're going to want to move Warner, and definitely not going to be Bosa. So I would think that right now that they don't have any, but those are the two that are going to be untouchable for me.
Okay.
None of them are untouchable. They're all for sale. I'm not saying it's gonna happen. I'm not saying hey, Nick Bosa's for sale. What's up? I'm just saying, like you mentioned earlier, there's a price for everyone. And after seeing Bosa leave, homegrown talent, the huge leader, every player in that locker room, defensively, once a week, one of them would talk to me and say, there would be a player. Okay, there's some stag going on. There we go. That they would each of them. One person would always mention about the leadership that Buckner would bring. Yeah, like I wouldn't even have to bring him up, and it was always astonishing. So to me, you send one of those pillars out like that. That sends a message. And in the last 3 years, where you have a Ramsey that's leaving, you have a Khalil Mack that's leaving, all these players, everyone's touchable. There's no such thing, and especially with all this hyped in through Deshaun Watson, it's definitely a possibility. So I'd say if it's untouchable, it's just more like you're unlikely to get traded. Like a George Kittle, they just signed George Kittle. Like it's very slim he gets traded, but I wouldn't say he's untouchable. So everyone's price. Leave your biases and emotion at the side. Everyone's fielding offers.
I think Kittle and Bosa are the top two that come to mind, but someone that I think is kind of underrated on this question would be Mostert. And I know that people don't typically think about running backs as untouchable because they're actually these days viewed as super replaceable. But when you talk about what Grant was mentioning earlier about losing your run game coordinator, and you know how much Kyle Shanahan depends on the run, Mostert is such a unique fit in this run game that I don't see someone else coming in and being able to do exactly what he does with that specific skill set. He's probably the fastest running back in the league. He works really well in the zone system. He's an adequate pass blocker as well. So I don't know if they consider him untouchable, but I think they should.
Is it untouchable as in the 49ers would not trade him, or untouchable as in teams wouldn't even trade for him in the first place because of the contract?
No,
49ers.
Yeah. So I think as everyone's been touching after Buckner, it's hard to say anyone on this team is 100% untouchable, but I find it hard to believe that there'd be a trade matchup for Bosa and Fred Warner and even George Kittle that would make a move. Like in MLB, there's always players that are quote unquote available, but it would take a king's ransom to get them. And you'd be crazy to ignore 4 first-round picks for Nick Bosa, but for 1 first-round pick, they would not do that. That type of thing, I think, is with this team, with those 3 guys, they're pretty untouchable.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I'm with Jose on this. I don't think there's any untouchable player on the team. I mean, as much as you like Fred, I like DeForest Buckner too, and it blew my mind that they traded him. But I get it. And what killed me more is that they only got a mid-first for a guy that went 7th overall and improved, and then used it on an inferior player. That's what killed me. Everyone has a price, and think about it this way. Everyone wants the Niners to get Deshaun Watson. He's great. Okay. The issue is, what's he going to cost in terms of draft capital? Probably 3 first-round picks, 4 first-round picks, 3 second-round picks, a ton of stuff. But what if Houston comes and says, all right, well, we know you don't want to part ways with half a decade's worth of first-round picks, but what if it's just only 2 first-round picks and Nick Bosa?
Yes.
What about that? It's like, well, yeah, I'm listening because I like Nick Bosa, but A, he's torn both ACLs, and B, he's not a quarterback. He's not Deshaun Watson. And what if they say, oh, okay, 2 first-round picks and Fred Warner? Well, I'm listening because A, he's a middle linebacker, and B, he's going to be very, very expensive. So no, there's no one who's untouchable. And frankly, maybe John Lynch should be getting creative like that and talking to Houston about, would you take Fred Warner instead of 2 first-round picks? How much is Warner worth to you? How much is Bosa worth to you? I don't know. Is that crazy?
I think it is. For me, if I'm going to make that trade for Watson, I'm doing it, and I'm going ahead and I'm giving them the picks. And I know when we had this, did this last week, I said I was against it. I still am. But if I'm going to make that trade, I'm going to give them the Herschel Walker picks. I'm going to give them all of that because if you look at that trade, if you're pro Deshaun Watson trade and you look at that Walker trade, the problem with Minnesota wasn't the trade. It was they didn't have a quarterback, and the trade their trade, they were picking up a running back. Quarterback is a much more transcendent player,
right?
True. And Minnesota only missed the playoffs for in the next 2 seasons, and after that they were in the playoffs all the way through. I think they missed 1 time. They were right back there, but their whole issue was they didn't have the quarterback. In the Watson trade, you're getting a quarterback, and since you're you're giving up those draft picks, I want to keep Bosa because I know he's going to be a stud. I know he's going to help my defense. I want to keep Warner because he's going to be a stud on my defense. And the other part of making that trade is you're lowering your salary cap to keep your corners. Basically, you bring the whole defense that you had last year back with a much better quarterback, one of the top quarterbacks in the NFL, and you're set for 1 to 2 years for sure.
Okay, all right, that's a good argument.
Anyway,
I liked it. I'm just it's an interesting thing to think about. But I think the main point is at a certain level, every player has his price. You got to be willing to listen on every player, unless it's Patrick Mahomes, I guess, or Aaron Donald.
I think with the Buckner trade, the 49ers also show how much they're willing to give in a player and how much they're willing to do one player versus the whole team. Yeah. So that's why I think a Bosa trade would make sense, because they know, hey, if we're getting Watson, then we got to get rid of Bosa, because we know down the line he's going to cost money. So boom, some money saved right there, and then we cut Jimmy, and that's more money saved. So I just think the longevity is also a vision there.
Okay.
If they do that trade, though, I think D'Amico Ryans better follow Robert Saleh wherever he goes, because if that was the case, then you have Watson for the cheap deal this year, but then I think next year it doubles or triples his salary, and you have to find a way to supplement some pass rush. I know they perform well on the interior, but without Kerry Hyder, they would be starting Deion Jordan and Jordan Willis for the next couple of years if they did that trade. So defensive coordinator, whoever it would have to look towards Saleh, I think.
What are you trying to say about Deion Jordan and Jordan Willis, Maverick?
Well, there are no Nick Bosa, and I think they would have to find a way to supplement a pass rush on the fly without a lot of salary cap. That's hard to me.
They're better than Eric Armstead, and Eric Armstead makes a lot of money, so I don't know. I'm just playing. You're right. Okay, because I'm sorry. I'm not. Okay,
well, then doesn't it help, because then Armstead is the number one pass rusher for the next 3 years? Doesn't it scare you a little?
There you go. Yeah, it does scare. You're right. I was just being a jerk. I'm sorry. Okay. Would Kyle Shanahan lose the locker room if he released Jimmy Garoppolo? I mean, does he even have a choice here? Does he just have to let Jimmy Garoppolo play and succeed or fail and kind of get himself cut? Or can he cut him and say, guys, this is the right move for the team? I don't know. Who wants to start? Maverick?
I can start. I just think, the players shouldn't be surprised if Jimmy Garoppolo is moved on from, because it's been rumored for the last couple of months. Unless they're all on social media cleanses, they shouldn't be blindsided by any moves. But it's a business. If Jimmy Garoppolo, if they find a way to move on from other players, if they're able to bring back Trent Williams and Jason Barrett, or Trent Williams and Kerry Hyder with the salary they would free up from moving on from Jimmy Garoppolo, I think that'd be big. I think that's the biggest problem, is not just Jimmy. They could lose 10 important veteran leaders on this roster. So it kind of becomes a trade-off of who those 5 guys are that they want to keep. And I would lean toward other guys, but if they go Jimmy, then that's fine with me.
Okay.
Yeah, you guys know that infamous Donald Trump quote where he says something to the effect of, I could stand in the middle of the street and shoot someone and my supporters would still follow me. I think Kyle Shanahan has a little bit of that going on. His players love him. So I think to clarify, I'm not saying he has Trumpness going on, but he has the loyalty of his locker room going on.
No, he does have some serious fans. You're right.
And so this is a coach who got away with bringing his entire team to Arizona, keeping them away from their family. Not that it was his decision, but look what they did. They ended up flying in all the families for that game in week 16. This is a coach who listens to rap like his players. This is a coach who his players like the shoes that he wears. I mean, he's a young coach and his players love him. So although it would obviously rock the boat a lot, and there would no doubt be some rumblings on Twitter of people saying, what the heck? Why do we get rid of Jimmy? No doubt about it. At the end of the day, the players love Kyle Shanahan, and he could pull it off, because I think that he is mostly well-liked in that locker room.
Yeah, I see no way in heck that he'd get any side-eyed view if he cut Jimmy or traded Jimmy, whatever you want to do, forced him into retirement, Jimmy, whatever. I think they all believe in him. They're gonna say the same old cliche thing. Oh, we trust in Kyle. We believe in his vision, because it's not like he's giving them a real reason to doubt him in the first place. It's not like he's gonna pull the Doug Peterson and just bench your quarterback in the middle of a game and cost them the win. So pretty much they all know that they can trust in him. They know he has a vision, and if he's doing it and if he's cutting Jimmy, it's for a purpose. The only thing I can see a slight chance of there being why they would be, well, what's going on here, Kyle, is because you cut him and there's no immediate replacement, because some of these players, they might be reactionary. I know they understand it's a business, but it could be because why are you cutting him? So we technically don't have a quarterback on the roster, because Beathard and Mullins are free agents. So what are we looking at here? I think that'd be the only thing that could probably really be raised as concern.
Yeah, I wanted to say yes, but I don't really think so. Just given what we saw them go through this year, what we've seen them over the course of the last 4 years, I think that the players buy into what Shanahan's saying and what he does, and they're going to rally up and play as hard as they can, regardless of who the quarterback is. And if they move on from Garoppolo, that's that's going to keep some of their friends in the locker room at the same time. So I don't think it's going to be a problem if that's what he decides to do.
I've been thinking about it a lot. Someone brought it up yesterday on a show I was doing, and it seems like, yeah, they really do love Shanahan, as Tony pointed out, but they love Jimmy too. I mean, they really do love Jimmy. They were losers before Jimmy got there, and he usually wins with them. He's a pretty down-to-earth guy. They like him. So if they were to cut him after saying they wouldn't, after saying he's definitely the quarterback, I think it would raise eyebrows. I think, Tony, you guys are all right. He wouldn't lose the locker room right off the bat because he has a lot of equity built up. But if the replacement is Andy Dalton, which is what I would do, and Andy Dalton loses next year, and it's not even his fault, but if the Niners go 6-10 next year, and Jimmy Garoppolo goes somewhere else, plays and wins, maybe you lose the locker room at that point. Maybe the people are like, well, what the hell was that, Kyle? We liked him. It worked. You got rid of him for no reason. Now, all of a sudden, his players are looking at him differently. So that's how it could blow up in his face. And I think that I think Kyle's thought this through. I don't think he wants that to happen. I don't think you can let that happen. I think part of him feels stuck. Maybe that's not a good excuse, but I think he feels stuck.
No, great. That's a solid excuse, and I think that actually reminded me of why I kind of hate this whole. Well, look at Jimmy Garoppolo's win-loss record since he's come to the team, as if it's Jimmy Garoppolo, as if winning with Jimmy Garoppolo is just specific to him, as if they don't get another adequate quarterback, that they won't get the similar results. It's like the same thing with Dee Ford. Oh, they can't get sacked because Dee Ford's out. Like, no, it's not a Dee Ford thing. Had they done what Nick Newman said, and maybe put Marcus Golden there, they still probably get a very adequate pass rush. So to me, I just think that it's just these players. It's not just unique to that specific player. It's more like unique, just because of the skill set every fits. Right. Just keep looking to upgrade. And remember, if you lose that locker room, you get fired. It doesn't matter what you did. Yeah.
Doug Peterson won the Super Bowl and got fired. He's out. Kyle Shanahan doesn't have that on his resume. So what he has going for him right now is a locker room that loves him unconditionally. And I think he's cognizant of that and, hesitant to jeopardize it, to use a bunch of big words.
And you've made the point in the past, Grant, too, about, if they move on without, with Lynch and if they decide to move on and they don't succeed, it's not just the locker room that's going to be on them. It's going to be Jed York. It's going to be a lot of other layers. So, they have a fall guy right now in Jimmy Garoppolo. They can run back with him and fail this year and say, see, I told you.
Right.
Before they make that move.
Real quick, Sean says, players know Jimmy is limited. They're just being good soldiers. If Watson came out wanting to be an SF, what would Kittle say? Agree. Hey, if the Niners can find an upgrade, no one in the locker room is going to be like, hey, that's my friend. No, of course not. But if it's a rookie, if it's Kyle Trask, they don't know about Kyle Trask. If it's Andy Dalton, if it's Mitchell Trubisky, some of these players might be like, yo, what the hell are you doing? I mean, I trust you, but let's see how it works out. And if it doesn't work out, it's like, Kyle, you're an idiot. So I think that's the one thing. If they can get to Deshaun Watson, no one's going to object. But how realistic is that? Maybe that's what'll happen. Maybe that's what'll happen. Hold on. We got another one.
But wait.
Okay.
There's more.
Let's go one step further in this hypothetical. If the 49ers were to cut Jimmy Garoppolo, how much money would he get on the open market? Keep in mind, he's scheduled to get $26.9 million from the 49ers in 2021.
I think it'd be somewhere in the $15 to $20 million range. Would be about what I think teams would be willing to bring him in for. He's not I think they're going to look at him as a mid to low level starting quarterback in the NFL, and that's probably around the range that they would go at. That sounds about right.
Yeah, I think I'm just going to same thing with Jack, but just maybe pinpoint it to say 20 million annually. Wouldn't know exactly how the guarantees would look like. I think if you're going to guarantee it, it'd be like more of just like the signing bonus type, because it is not just even his performance, but his injury history. He's not a guy who's reliable to come out and just be someone, hey, we want you to start 1 through 16 or 1 through 19 since the goal should be getting the Super Bowl. And then just think about that. Here's this much money. Would any team feel comfortable for that? I'm pretty sure the 49ers don't feel comfortable about that. That's why we're even having this conversation about having him be replaced. It's more than just his gameplay. It's his availability, which is the best ability. So if you can't get out there, then your number is going to get lowered and lowered.
I think Jimmy could get a little bit more than 20. I think he could go between 20 and 25. And the reason I say that is because he's really polarizing. And when we're talking about his salary, we're not averaging the opinion of 32 owners, 32 GMs, and what they would be willing to pay. He's so polarizing, and Twitter is an example of that. People either love the guy or they're down on him. And I think GMs are going to be the same way. They're either going to love him or they're going to be down on him. And can a good agent find one or two GMs that are feeling really good about Jimmy? They're the Jimmy hype train folks, and get them competing against each other and sell Jimmy for 20 to 25. I think that's realistic.
Yeah, it depends who wants him.
I look at other contracts to kind of make my basis off of. Teddy Bridgewater got 3 years, $63 million, and he has injury concerns as well, but he's a little more mobile. So I think he would make a little more than Garoppolo, but I think it would be that 3-year mid-50 range overall for the salary. And then there's a Teddy type out in that 3rd year where the Panthers can get out of it. I think it would be $26 million, and they'd have just $5 million of dead cap. So something around that, I think would be what Garoppolo would sign.
Okay. I think he would get significantly less than what he's getting, what you guys are saying and what he's getting now. I mean, he signed this contract before the pandemic. So it was when at this point now where he's getting the 26.9, he was supposed to be making between around 12% of the Niners salary cap, which is a lot, but not too much. It's right at the upper threshold of what's possible to win a Super Bowl with. And basically, you got to be an elite quarterback to be making that kind of money. When he went to the Super Bowl last year, he was making 8.5%, which is basically where he should be. So for him to be, I mean, the problem right now is with the cap going down to 175 potentially, he's at 15%. That's way too high. So to me, I mean, if he's going to be a starting quarterback, I don't think he should be making more than 8% of a team's cap. That puts him at 14 million. And I'm not sure that he would be a starting quarterback next season if he were to get released. Real quick, which team would look at him and be like, yeah, that's our starter for sure.
New
We're not going to draft a guy. New England, I think they draft a guy.
Well, if Houston trades Deshaun Watson,
it just seems like the guy's missed 23 starts in the last 3 seasons. He didn't play well this season before he got hurt. He might be in the not Mariota, but like Mariota's making 10. He might make 14. I'm saying 14. And if that's the case, if that's all he would get, then the Niners might really consider releasing him, because why are you paying him $13 million more than he would get on the open market? Why are you doing that? Especially when the cap's going down and you can't afford to. Mm-hmm. If you cut him, would he be so upset that he would go to some other team who would give him the same offer? Maybe. I don't know. I don't like giving him $13 million more than he would get on the market. Whatever the answer is, they got to figure it out, because they got to find a way to renegotiate this. It seems to me.
Yeah, it's really hard.
We can argue it.
No, I think that makes perfect sense. That makes perfect sense, because that's why, once again, that's why they're thinking, hey, Jimmy's best option is for him to get traded, because he's most likely probably not going to get that money out there. It's going to be diminished to some degree, and then now you really got to think, oh, who's going to be a trade partners? You know, we've talked about
who wants to pay Jimmy $27 million in 2021 with the $175 million cap. It's tough.
Mm-hmm.
It's tough. So
yeah, I don't disagree with Grant. The one piece I would disagree on, though, is I think New England would welcome him back with open arms. I think they would prefer Jimmy over a draft pick. And I don't think that Belichick wanted to let go of Jimmy. I think he was forced to, and I think he would do anything to get him back.
I think he would do anything, but it would be a pretty low ball offer. I swear. I think you'd give him 15. Hey, Jimmy, we love you.
And he'd agree to it, I think.
Do it for the team. Do it for the Patriots.
Do it for the guy that brought you.
The one thing Jimmy does have is there's a lot of teams that kind of need quarterbacks that aren't in the position to draft one in the first round. Who knows what's happening with Ben Roethlisberger? Not saying that's even an option for Jimmy, but the Steelers, who knows what happens with Drew Brees? There's a lot of veterans that could use a 1 to 2 year stopgap, which is what the Panthers do with Bridgewater, that type of deal, where it might be a lot of money, but it's similar to what he has with the Niners right now, where they could get out of it really easily.
It just seems to me, good point. It just seems to me that no team would give Jimmy Garoppolo more than 10% of their cap in 2021. That's a lot for a guy who can't even stay healthy half the time. And 10% of 175 is 17.5. So he shouldn't be making more than that next year. Mm-hmm. They got to find a way to take $10 million away from him next year. Otherwise, they're just doing a disservice to themselves, I think. They can't win a Super Bowl in 2021 with him making 15% of the cap. Absolutely not.
And don't they got to make a decision before April 1st too? Otherwise, he's pretty much locked in. I think I locked this, or someone told me about it. Pretty much like if they want to get a trade for him, that pretty much the decision's gonna come within in like 2 months. So otherwise, you're trapped with him.
Okay, we have some questions. I'm going to take them. It's from Sean first, but I have one more topic I want to get to first, and then we'll take the questions. And I haven't prepped you with this. This is a bonus question that you guys aren't prepared for, but I've been thinking about it, and I don't know the answer to it, so I just like to get your candid, shoot from the hip answer, all right? So everyone's talking about Deshaun Watson, hell of a player. Trade a lot of picks, give him a lot of money, win. Well, Dak Prescott may not be as good as Deshaun Watson, but he's close. And he's a free agent. Now, the Cowboys could tag him, but they tagged him once already. Tagging him again would be very expensive. If they do tag him, it would cost the Niners 2 first-round picks to trade for him. If they don't tag him, it would cost the Niners a whole lot of money to sign him. But Watson's expensive too. Is Prescott a better option for the 49ers than Watson?
Ooh.
I don't know the answer. I'm genuinely curious to hear what you guys say. I don't know.
I would go with not better than Deshaun Watson. If it's 2 first-round picks for Prescott and 3 or 4 for Watson, I'd much rather go the Watson route because, as we've said, this 1 year, Watson does have a lesser salary. Dak, you would be paying, 35 minimum?
True.
Right?
True. Watson is kind of a bargain next year, kind of, a mid-level.
So with Dak, you would be kissing goodbye all free agents really this offseason, at least Verge and Kerry Hyder, and that would hurt your defense a lot.
And
you have your quarterback. Yeah, and Trent Williams.
Yeah.
And I'm sure Dak wants to play with that offensive line without Trent Williams. I'm sure he'd love that on a franchise tag.
He hasn't taken a quick look. He hasn't taken a deep look at Justin School yet, so give it time.
Yeah, so I think that would be rough for him, but I would much rather go the Watson route if it was him or Dak. But I also think the Cowboys are going to sign him. I don't think they let him leave after seeing what happens when he's not in the offense.
Okay.
I think I'd go with Watson, knowing that Dak is coming off of an injury. I know that it may not be fair to say that Dak has been injury prone throughout his whole career, but when you're coming off a serious injury like that, there's been a lot of guys who weren't known as being injury prone, and then when they get that first injury in a while, it can kind of snowball and impact their health. And so I like the fact that Watson's coming off a healthy season.
Well, that's a really tough one, Grant. I hate you for this question, and I think I'm gonna have to go with. Watson as well, just because at least Watson has assured himself of being in the elite category, and even this year he's already leading the pass yards passing, and he's showing to still be ascending. At least right now, just take the guaranteed. And at least 21, you have a chance to really win it. With Dak, it's cool. You still get the upgrade. And you get to keep picks, but that's more so like if you really want to keep it within 5 years. And if 2020 showed the 49ers anything, is that don't take your Super Bowl window for granted. I know I was more like, hey, I understand the trade for DeForest Buckner and all that stuff, but some of these moves that you're just looking for 5 years down the line, you got to live in the moment. And with Deshaun Watson, at least you can live in the moment with him for 2021. And he is elite. And I think Dak might even break Deshaun Watson's record in terms of, might even break his salary number too, just because of hidden in the free market. So many competitors. You're gonna have the Bears out there. You're gonna have
or something crazy.
It's gonna be. It might be more than Watson. If there's anything that quarterback new contracts have shown, is that if you want to sign them first, because if you sign them last, you're paying more than you have to.
That's a really good point.
Yep. I'm going to go with Watson as well. If you look at it, just looking at his deal, you're only going to pay him $10.5 million for next year because the signing bonus stays with Houston. That's a good deal. And then after that, you have his contract. You have him in place. The most you have, it's $37 million is the most. That's going to be in the second year of the deal. But you've got this guy in your building now. Work with him. Give him more money, but spread it out over another 2 or 3 years so that you can keep that cap number low until the salary cap increases. And that's the direction that I would go. Plus, if you give up a bunch of draft picks, that helps John Lynch because he stinks in the first 3 rounds. That sets him up in the 4th through the 7th. So it's a perfect move.
That's funny. I guess I wouldn't do either one of these things. I'm all about money ball at quarterback, and I want the quarterback on the rookie deal. That's basically how I feel. Unless he's Patrick Mahomes, and neither of these guys are Patrick Mahomes, in my opinion. As excellent as both of them are, because they're both excellent. And better than Jimmy Garoppolo. Both of them would be, Josh Allen is, I would probably think about giving him the second deal. But still got to see more from him. What about what?
You wouldn't let Russ cook?
I would trade him, man. He can't. Anyway, we're getting off topic. What was I talking about? Dak Prescott. No, I think actually I'm going to disagree with the 4 of you. I'm thinking I know Dak Prescott would be more expensive in 2021, and I wouldn't trade picks for him. But if he's a free agent and Dallas decides to let him go because they don't want to give him all that money, I would just give the money to Dak Prescott, keep my picks, and feel like, if John Lynch is really bad, you could fire him and bring in a good general manager or a better one who knows what to do with draft picks. I don't know. I'd like the idea of the idea potentially being able to build around Dak Prescott long term than not with Watson. But you guys made really good points, and I came into this wanting to say Dak anyway. So maybe I don't know. I don't know.
Give all that money to a guy. You don't want to give all that money to a guy that just broke his leg.
No. His leg did a 360. That's what it did. His leg literally said,
he was a mobile quarterback, right? Oh, yeah. Well, at least he didn't tear his ACL. I don't know. Watson tore his ACL. I don't know. Yeah, it's a tough one. Actually, why even mess around when you can just draft the stud with that beautiful face from Florida? What a good, handsome man, Kyle Trask. It's his face. I think that's the reason people don't like him. Although Mac Jones has an Eli Manning face too, and everyone likes him right now. So I don't know.
How dare you disrespect Nick Mullins when he's in the room with us right now when we need to re-sign him back?
Nick Mullins is extremely handsome. I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know what you're talking about.
Wow.
Sean says, what if we draft a quarterback to sit 1 to 2 years? We upgrade our line, our players stay healthy, and Jimmy has a breakout year. How'd Kyle look then? He looked great, I guess.
Like a genius?
Like a genius? Like a genius he is.
I don't think Jimmy's going to have a breakout year, and I'm someone who had hopes for him this year that he would not take a massive step. I'd say some little increments because last offseason was supposed to be his first offseason that he can actually improve upon himself versus 2 years ago it was, hey, let me just get my feel to be a quarterback again, a football player again, and let's run it back. So keeping Garoppolo is not a terrible decision. I don't think that's something that's good. I'm not comfortable with it. I'm like Grant too. Like that's too much money for him, especially availability wise. But I still think it's going to be something where that it's most likely that he's going to be retained, and they look at quarterback in the draft wherever they deem it fit to be.
I don't know. Let's take this question a different direction. Well, hold on, Tony. What were you going to say?
I was just going to say briefly, I kind of like the idea of drafting, if they keep Garoppolo, drafting a quarterback in the middle rounds, kind of let somebody sit for a couple of years. I'm not opposed to that. I think Garoppolo, I might be the most bullish on Garoppolo of this group here. I think for him, it's all going to come down to his health. Now, I don't know if he can stay healthy, but if he can, I've got no doubt that Garoppolo can lead this team to the Super Bowl again. I really don't. But the big question is, can he stay healthy? And that's a question I'm not sure on. I think he's got the skill set and the ability to do it, though, no doubt in my mind.
They gotta find a way to restructure his contract. I don't know how they're going to do it, but what I would do, I guess, if you have a good relationship with him, you can say, look, Jimmy, when we negotiated this contract with you, you were affordable for 2021. You were actually going to be more affordable in 2021 than 2020 because the cap was going to go up and you'd take up like 11.9% of the cap. We were cool with that. But now it's going down. It's going to be 15%. It's possible we're going to lose Trent Williams. You couldn't stay healthy with him on the field this year. It's in your interest. It's in everyone's interest for you to take a little bit less money this year and for us to give it to you down the line. The only problem is the Niners keep holding on to this out clause basically in his contract. And how do you give him money at the end of a contract that you could void at any time? I mean, if I were Jimmy, I'm like, well, that doesn't do anything for me. Like you're just taking $10 million away from me, and I'm not guaranteed to ever see that again. So, is there a way to renegotiate this deal, or do you just cut him and re-sign him?
No, I say renegotiate. I think we're going to see a record this offseason of the most amount of contracts renegotiated. So if it becomes almost trendy, it's kind of like, well, everybody else is doing this with their starting quarterback out of recognition that this is a crazy salary cap year and teams kind of have to. I think that can make it a little easier to swallow for Jimmy and his agent.
It seemed to me like in that end of season press conference for Garoppolo, it seemed almost like that conversation's already been started with him. It didn't. I think part of why it seemed like, to me, it seemed like he was a little standoffish. Didn't really want to answer the questions because it was almost like he's already been asked to take a pay cut, and that negotiation process is ongoing. Yeah.
Like did you read it as he's already been asked and he said no, or he's already been asked and they haven't worked it out yet?
That he doesn't want it, that he's basically saying no, it's going to be a little bit of a
battle. I feel like if I were his agent, you'd say, okay, fine. Like, what's in it for us? The only thing that would be in it for us is long-term security. So you would have to make it much more difficult to cut my client the next 2 years. How are you going to do that?
Yeah. I think the only way that they can do it is by taking his salary and adding, taking his salary and converting it into signing bonus and adding a couple of years to it. And and I think that's kind of where I brought that up a couple of different times with tweets, but is that something the 49ers are really going to want to do? Because if by doing that, they're extending him and they're kind of going to be stuck with him for another 2 years, maybe 3.
Right. You take 10 to 15 million this year, convert it to signing bonus, give him a smaller salary, but then that creates dead cap in the future, right?
Yes.
So it makes him cheaper now, and it gives him long-term security. That's what he would require. And I don't think the Niners want to do it. I don't think Kyle wants to do that. But you have to do one or the other, Kyle. It's either get rid of Jimmy or restructure the deal. You cannot have him playing for 15% of your cap next year unless you really don't care and you're just like cool with not winning the Super Bowl or something. Do we agree on that?
Yeah. They need Trent Williams back.
One or the other, Kyle. I'd like to see what he decides, or if he just rides the fence like he always does. Pat Bewley says, what young cornerbacks are available in free agency or the draft? I don't know. What do you guys think? I haven't really looked at the corners yet.
I haven't looked at the corners yet either.
I haven't looked at the corners yet. Sorry.
I like Surtain and JC Horn and Farley, but Farley, obviously, not a lot of tape, at least from this year. So, and
it's
Surtain
a French
did not
name.
look perfect.
It's a French name. It's Surtain.
Sean Wade.
Surtain. Oh, the guy who got roasted 8,000 times in the last game. He looked great.
Yeah. John Wade's a nickel corner.
Oh.
Yeah.
The guy who
Xavier
couldn't cover
Rhodes is
Devontae
someone
Smith.
who'd be available in free agency as well.
Xavier Rhodes in free agency. Yeah.
I've always liked Xavier Rhodes. He's pretty good for a corner who's been in the league almost 10 years. He's really good.
Yeah, there's a few cornerbacks that are going to be available. I think the dude Surtain fits in perfectly with the drop in the national championship game. That's a perfect with Jimmy Ward in the secondary. No, but he's a good ball player.
Bang bang.
He is. I like Joe Horn's kid, but that's just and the Niners do well with those South Carolina, except for Kinlaw, but he's pretty good. I'm not going to say that. Hold on. How about trading down and getting more picks? Get offensive line with the first round pick and pick Trask in the second round pick. Alejandro, this is my burner account, everyone. This is my burner account. Yeah, I mean, that's basically what I would do, but so I don't have to talk about this one. What do you guys think? Yeah, I love this idea, Alejandro. Where did you get it? It's wonderful. It's phenomenal.
I guess it depends on I guess it depends on how they fare on free agency. If they do get Trent Williams, although you know what, they could go center. So they could argue they should go center as well on the first round. Because as soon as Weston Richburg went down last season, everything took a decline in terms of protection and run blocking. I mean, they were still stout and pretty solid for the most part, but it definitely was a difference. So I'd say offensive line is definitely going to be up there as debate in first round. But it might be definitely a toss up between if you do get Trent Williams returned back. But trading down, sitting on Kyle Trask or whoever is going to be at second round, it's not a bad idea. I'm not sure I would take Kyle Trask. I think it's garbage.
Is that what you think, huh? Okay, well.
No, I just want to piss you off.
What if Zach Wilson or Justin Fields falls to like 7 or 8 and the Niners just have to trade up 4 or 5 spots, kind of like the Bills did for Josh Allen? Would you be more inclined with making an aggressive move up for whoever the Niners like, or a conservative move down, get the offensive line, and get whichever tier 2 quarterback you think could be a starter? What do you want? What move is better? We can go around and talk about it, or we can just blurt it out at the same time.
If they like one of those quarterbacks, if they're locked in on them being an all-pro guy, I have no problem moving 5 spots up. But yeah. I just think those teams right there would want a quarterback. The Lions and Panthers, I just don't see them trading back, especially to an NFC team that would be competing with them for playoff spots, to give them their franchise quarterback. I think those 2 teams would jump at the chance to get Fields or Wilson. But in terms of the question, I'm all for trading back if Rashawn Slater's not there in terms of offensive linemen, because I think after Slater, it takes a step back, and in that 20 range, you can get one of those offensive linemen and they'd be able to help.
Cool.
Yeah, I the idea of Trask being available in round 2, I think every year we see this happen where people are like, oh yeah, this quarterbacks will be selected probably early second round, late first round. And then we have the pro days, then we have the combine, and the quarterbacks just rise to the top. And rightfully or wrongfully so, these quarterbacks who don't deserve to be in the top 10 or the top 15 or even the first round end up going there. And the hype train starts rolling and the Twitter fans start getting excited about it. So I think I wouldn't do it. I also don't like the idea of getting into a bidding war because the 49ers wouldn't be the only team that would want those guys at 8 and would want to move up. So the price, I think, would be too high.
I think Trey Lance is going to be there at 12 and someone's going to want him, and the Niners shouldn't make that mistake. If someone wants to trade up for Trey Lance, I think trading down would be just cool. And you're right. These quarterbacks are going to get hyped up. The one who's going to get hyped up is Mac Jones. I'm calling it right now. Someone's going to look at him and be like, man, he's such a winner. He's going to be great. And he's going to end up going first round. The guy who's not going to get hyped up for whatever reason, well, I know why. Well, part of the reason why is Kyle Trask. I have given him the Nick Mullins treatment. People hate him. And there's nothing he can do. He's going to go to Senior Bowl, and people are going to be like, he's the worst. And I hate his personality, and I don't like him. And it is nothing he can do. He's going to go second round, and that bodes well for the 49ers. Maybe I'm doing this for the 49ers just to help them get him. Maybe they've paid me off.
Well, you are calling control.
That's right.
With Trask, what I like if that's the guy that they like, I'd like to see the 49ers actually trade down, like as you mentioned, pick up a couple extra picks, go defensive end. Maybe like the guy from Michigan in the first round, kind of in the middle of the first round, and then jump up at the end of the first round to get Trask at like 31 or 32. And the reason for doing that is because then you lock him in with that fifth-year option. That would be something that I would like to see them do.
I'm with that too. And I think basically the Niners, one way or another, trade up, trade down, take a quarterback at some point in the first round because they haven't done it since 2005. And it's really hard to find a starter outside the first round. It's really hard. Really freaking hard.
If they can get up to 7, they can make that move. It's probably going to be a second, maybe a couple of seconds. And that'd be something that's not. But I'm not going to trade a first-round pick for any of these quarterbacks.
That's exactly what Buffalo did. I think 2 2s to move up 5 spots.
That's what I'm using as my base.
Yeah, I like
that'd be a great value right there. If you can get that, just 2 2s. Like, all right, here you go. Why not?
The problem is when you get to 7, you're not getting Josh Allen. That's the problem. It's Zach Wilson. And Jack and I broke down his tape the other day. And it's like he only does one read throws. He can, and it's not his fault. His first read's always open. His offensive line is fantastic. It's not his fault. He just doesn't have a lot of experience doing the things he's going to have to do every other snap in the NFL. So good luck to anyone who trades up for Zach Wilson. He might turn out great. He might be great. I don't know.
The Zach Wilson tape that we show on Tuesday next week is going to be really interesting. I think people are going to really like that because you're going to see a lot of more things like the 49ers run, a lot of those Jimmy Gimmies. And there's even some plays that look exactly out of – there's one that's a play right out of the 49ers from 2020 that Garoppolo makes a bad throw on. That almost goes for a touchdown. So just got a little preview there. But
okay, final comment. It's a real quick one, then I'll let you guys go. It's a good one too. Watch Beathard be the starter next season and piss everyone off. I'm hoping. A guy can dream. A guy can dream. Wouldn't that be great if Kyle's like, hey, guess what, everyone?
Hey, all I know is once Beathard threw that one deep pass in training camp to George Kittle to the sideline and caught it, that was Beathard, right? I think that was Beathard that threw that stuff because me and you looked at each other like, that was Beathard? Well, no, that wasn't Beathard. You were all there with your binoculars like, it was.
Do you think Beathard will be in the league next year?
No.
If Tom Savage can be named a day one starter at one point in his career, there's a lot of quarterbacks that get the opportunity. I'm not saying he's going to be a starter, Beathard, but he'll be a top 3.
Also, there's a lot of execs who owe Bobby Beathard favors, man. That guy probably got a lot of people's jobs, careers started. So, yeah. What about Trent Taylor? Is he going to be in the league next year?
He might come back to
squad.
A little flimsy.
Yeah. All right.
Hold up. Let me defend Beathard here for a second, though, real quick. Can we agree though that he's improved from last year? Do we agree on that at least?
Oh, we didn't see him last year.
Excuse me, the year before, the last year he was on the field.
Yes, I would say yes. Yes, that's fair.
All right, so you got a young guy who's improving. He deserves to be in the league.
I don't like his face though.
No, but Tony's right though. If you watch that Sunday night game at the end of the season with Philadelphia, their third string quarterback, he couldn't even take a damn snap. You put CJ Beathard's actually running the offense and actually kind of looked like
great at taking
competent.
snaps.
He looks competent. perfect. He's competent. He looks like a competent NFL level quarterback.
Boy, that's the way to actually do your job at taking the snap. You know,
I think he's
I want to say he has 6
praising a wide
touchdowns and no
receiver for
interceptions this
catching the
year.
ball.
What?
I think he has 6 touchdowns and no interceptions this year. And I know stats are stats, and there a lot of it's in garbage time, but still, he's adequate.
And did he ever fumble the ball on a snap? No. Did he
Yes.
fumble a handoff?
He dropped the snap.
Oh, he dropped the snap. Never mind. Cut him. He's out.
Yeah.
All right, guys. This was
One
a good one.
last
Thanks.
thing. I'm going to say this over to Charles in the comment section. Zach
Okay.
Wilson even said he wants to play for the 49ers. Yes, he said he wants to play for the 49ers. He also, right after that, says he likes Carolina Panthers
Yeah.
as well.
Who doesn't
Stop
want to play
it.
for the 49ers?
He
That's
likes
my
any
point.
team that's going to give him millions of dollars in the first round of this upcoming draft.
Exactly.
Yep. All right, guys. We'll be back tomorrow with trivia and stuff. It'll be a much more serious version because today was, I don't know, actually. It's going to be silly. Thanks for watching. We'll be back tomorrow.
Still silly.
I thought silly. Take care.